to this next episode of the Raise Your Game podcast. Welcome. I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to be having this conversation right now with some incredible clients who are in my highest level program. So they're in my highest level program, but they have played with me in lots of different spaces. And I thought this would be a perfect time. They're killing it this year. They've also experienced their own ups and downs with mental chatter and how they show up in the world while still creating incredible results for themselves. And so what I wanted to do is have a really powerful conversation with them today about moving through or breaking through these courage barriers that come up when you are trying to succeed in your business and get to the next level. And so I'm going to do a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is I want to say this. If you're an entrepreneur in this world, the past few months, this year so far probably hasn't been really easy, right? It didn't feel easy. It may have felt like an emotional roller coaster. We have a lot of things going on, a lot of things that have been coming up in life. And you may have experienced some heartbreaking things, may have even been feeling disconnected from yourself, from others, and even suffering from a bit of an identity crisis. Like, who am I? Am I really supposed to be doing this in the world? And what I want you to know is that we are no different than you. Life happens. And so that's what this conversation is about today, because I want to give you the real about what I do that helps me to continually grow this multi-million-dollar business. And I want them to give you the real about where they are in business and what they're doing that helps them continually grow. Because if you don't get this right, it's not going to happen. Before I do that, I want to do a quick invitation to Play Big. So Play Big is one of my most powerful programs that I have, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. But I wanted to just do a quick invite and let you know that if you are thinking about working with me, this is the last round that we're going to do this year. It is one of the most powerful containers that I have. The extended payment plan goes away today. The extended payment options will no longer be available after today. It's a $10,500 investment. All you have to do is message me, Shameca, I'm ready to play big, and I will send you the application questions and the details about the program there. All right. Are you guys ready to jump in?
Ready.
Yeah. We're patiently waiting.
Let's go.
So I want to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself and to share with everyone who you are and what magic you're creating in the world, because I think that's important. And when we share results, people are always like, well, what do they do? And what did they sell? And so we want to nip that in the bud right now so that they can get that out of their mind and understand who you are. So you guys can start in any order that you want and go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, I will go first. My name is Randi. I'm the president of Paradigm Shift Coaching. I coach corporate executive teams to higher levels of performance through self-awareness and team building strategies so that they can reach elevated levels of success in their business with my complete business confidence model, where I talk them through leadership development, strategy, alignment, and hold them accountable to the execution of their strategy. So that's what I do and who I play with. And I'm creating empowered leaders that are changing the world in their organization. So I'm pretty excited. I feel totally aligned with my purpose in working with this group.
Love it.
I'll go next. I'm Nikki Bradley, and I am a brand strategist and authentic messaging expert. And I work with brilliant, badass women who have businesses where maybe they have been hiding a bit in the background, and they know that it's time for them to show up. And it's the biggest, baddest, dopest version of themselves so that they can be seen and get their message out to the people that really need to hear from them so they can serve them and make more money. So that's what I do, help them to get their messaging together so they can reach who they need to reach.
Perfect.
And I am Bridget Simmons. I work with badass, brilliant women as well who have followed a path of success. They are brilliant and bigger than they have been playing. So I'm a coach, trainer, leader, speaker who creates limitlessness for these women. Oftentimes they're successful, they've climbed the corporate ladder, and they're bored to death. Paper, they look fabulous, but if you really were to get to the heart of the matter, they would love to be existing in the world in a more powerful, limitless way. And that's exactly what I support them in creating, is the life of their dreams and desires.
I love it. You guys are all brilliant, badass, because I work with brilliant, badass women. And I was giggling because I was like, that just means that there's enough brilliant, badass women in the world to go around. That's all it means.
Totally.
So I want to dive into this conversation because I think it's apropos in the moment and it's a super powerful conversation. And I want to set it up in this way. Most people believe that success is very linear, right? Or that it's going to be instantaneous because you're making a decision or you're in the zone right now in this moment. That once you start winning, it's just a straight line to a beeline to where you're trying to go, like to that $1 million month or that $1 million year, that $1 million business or that $100,000 business, whatever it is, that it's just going to keep going. And what I know is that couldn't be furthest from the truth. And it's those who understand that there's two pieces to this. Yes, it gets to be easy and it can be simple. And there will still be challenges along the way. Those are the ones who get that understanding, who win the biggest, because there's this dichotomy to walking the path of entrepreneurship that when you master it, it puts you on the trajectory to either be in the top 2% or to be the top 2%, period. It puts you in that space where you actually can accomplish what 98% of the world, entrepreneurs, business owners, will never do. And so today, what I want us to do, guys, is just have a candid, open conversation, an honest conversation. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because you've been creating incredible results so far this year. And you've walked this path, right? This dichotomy of good, bad, head trash, I'm a badass, all of that stuff. Nikki, I know you just created your entire 6-figure income in 3 short months, which is incredible. And I'm celebrating you for that. Randi, I know that you are currently closing sales above $50,000. You also just created 6 figures in 3 short months. And then Bridget, you are collapsing timelines like nobody's business. And you just celebrated your largest month this year at $54,000, brought in less than 30 days.
Yeah.
And I'm celebrating each one of you for that. And yet I know there's a lot of things that have been happening behind the scenes. So I want to talk about it because no matter what happened, you showed up, period. You have demonstrated, each one of you, resilience, determination, vulnerability, and a willingness to come back to your own power seat. And that has blown my mind and my heart wide open. And so today I want to celebrate you, but I also want to talk about it, right? So when you look at where you are, let's just talk about this year. Let's talk about that. Like so far this year, you guys have been creating incredible results. What has that been like?
You want the truth?
I want the truth. You want the real.
Internally, a hot mess at times. I will say the start of the year was just like, I never ran track, but I like track when I did it in PE. And when it's like go time, let's go. And I start off hot, and the year started off hot and ready. 2022, just the magical numbers of all the 2s. And the first couple of months, what I felt, nothing felt like it was working. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was doing the things, but it wasn't feeling as though it was coming in. But one thing that I will say I learned in being in your world, Shameca, is paying attention to the numbers and facts over feelings. Mm-hmm. Because if I let my feelings dictate and report to you what the year has started off like, you would think that I was heading into getting a job and leaving entrepreneurship behind. But looking at facts and the numbers, I was like, oh, I'm actually doing a lot better than I thought. Yes. And then taking my mind off of the feelings, which I stayed in for a long time. But once I looked at the facts, that's when I opened up myself to the biggest month I had, which is what you just talked about at 54,000, which is almost double what I made. Almost what I made the whole of Play Big in those 3 months. So a lot of seed planting, a lot of doubting myself and telling myself a story that wasn't really true. Mm. So if I had to sum up the beginning of the year, it was a lot of crappy inner thinking. And then once I cleared it away to look at what was true, mm-hmm. I embodied a whole different energy that then allowed for what just happened to happen.
That's beautiful. I was telling you guys this behind the scenes. I would say that like 15 days out of the month this past year, even though I spent a good portion of that in Greece, there were mornings where I woke up like, I'm about to lose everything. Like there's just this feeling of not being where you are. And when you look at the reality, I'm like, girl, like you literally make a few $100,000 a month. There's, even if you lost half of your clients, you'd still be okay. And it just cracks me up. Like it cracks me up. I crack myself up about myself, but it breaks my heart when I see other people going through this, because some people don't understand to look at the reality of what you're creating and not the feeling of what it feels like. Because what it feels like is I'm so far away from the $30 million business that I need to triple what I have already so that it can just grow already. And that puts pressure on me and makes me feel like I'm not winning. And it creates that success amnesia kind of feeling when it's like, there's how many business owners can say they're doing what you've done, Bridget? Like they created $54,000 in a month.
It's insane. And even when you say that, I'm like, who's she talking about?
I'm talking about you.
The multiple personalities that occur in this entrepreneurship journey is, I have that same feeling that even so much to, if I get a message from someone, I'm like, oh, they're leaving me. And it's, what are you going through?
That's hilarious. Yeah. I'm laughing because I do that too.
Oh, this is the end. What was it, Fred Sanford? Oh, Elizabeth, this is the big one.
And then you get this is my trauma with voicemail, lady.
I'm so glad you're part of my life, and I couldn't have done this without you. Still, yes. Randy, what were you saying?
This is my trauma with voicemail. When I see voicemail, I've got that reaction of it's bad news. I've had to rewire that and stop using voicemail.
So crazy.
I think what you just said, Bridget, like the beginning of this year, and I think we talked about this a little bit, Shameca, the last time we did this, but I went into the beginning of the year like, oh, this is going to be awesome. You know, I had like this big goal for the year, and I'm like, you know, I had my plan, and I always have like, you know, these great intentions, right, for the year. And I had COVID right before Christmas or right after Christmas. And so I would the beginning of the year was trash. just like the real was trash. There was head trash going on. It just was trash. And so I was like, I'm behind. Like how in the world is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Because I'm behind. And so even what you said just about facts over feelings, like I had to look at, okay, where was I this time last year?
Mm-hmm.
And the end of January or early February last year, I felt the same way. I was behind because I had done 0 sales in January of last year, and I still hit my goal. I still did 6 figures last year. The same thing was true this year. I was like, I didn't make any sales in January because it was trash, right? I was having all the same trash thoughts that I had last year. And so I was like, okay, if I could do it last year, then I can do it again this year. Yes, it's a bigger goal, but I know what to do. And then the other thing that really was resonating with me this year was Shameca talking about managing our energy, like focusing on our energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what I think was the biggest game changer for me this year. And getting the results that I had was managing my energy and what I was focusing on, and like the consistency of it. And definitely, I think being in Play Big and having you guys as a support and seeing everybody else's wins and celebrating with you guys, like when I would see y'all, when I was like, yes, okay, so if they're doing it, then it's possible for me too.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just staying in that energy of like winning, like, okay, if they're winning, I'm winning too. Even if I didn't see it right now, like I'm winning too.
I think that's like it's a courage threshold, right? Because the non-courageous thing to do is to continue to beat yourself up for the imaginary lack of success that you currently have. When I look at the first year we cost $1 million, and when I look at the last year we did $1.5 million, like a little more than $1.5 million last year cash. When I look at that in January, even the first quarter, it was blown to hell. Like there was nothing in those numbers that told me I was going to have $1 million business. And the thing that has always kept me focused is looking back, like I was light years ahead. I had more money in my bank account than I'd ever had. Like looking at the reality of what I had created saves me day in and day out. Day in and day out. It saves me because if I look at where I want to be and the badass I want to be able to show the world that I am, I have big goals. I have big goals. I have big dreams. I have big visions. Like I'm a giant in my own head. And so in my head, I'm a giant. And then when I look at where I am compared to the vision that God's put on my heart, I'm like, girl, you need to, like, you ain't got time to sleep. You ain't got time to do nothing. You don't have time for self-care. You don't have time. And all of that is a lie. It's not the truth because there is a process to this. And that's what takes courage.
And I am so grateful for you sharing your process with us because it saved me this year. This first half of the year has been tumultuous for me as well. A lot going on in my personal life. And I had my first 6-figure quarter despite that. Yes. That was such a huge win accomplishment. I feel super proud of that because despite all of the distractions, all of the mind chatter, all of the real heavy emotions in my personal life, I was able to have a process, have a community to support me, and actually even start my day with some of the rituals that we talk about inside the NLA community of reading and mindset work, meditation, and just writing our energy for the day. It's literally saved me. And I think I've posted in our private group a few times that reading A Happy Pocket Full of Money, 10 pages in the morning sets me up on a different trajectory. And so through those times over the last 6 months that I have felt low, I have leaned so heavily on the energy of this community and even just looking forward to those Monday calls so I can get that energy injection when I'm feeling so low. And then, of course, when you're in Play Big, you get the injection on Fridays.
You get a double dose.
If you ever start sliding after Monday's call with NLA, that's like Friday's like, okay, back in the game.
Yeah. Yes. You know, I love the accountability for keeping my mindset right because of those structures in the community.
Yeah. I want to talk about this. So I want to talk about two things. I do want to talk about Play Big and the structure of Play Big because I think it's a super powerful program and I want you guys to give your insights on that. But I want to start here and also bring up something that Bridget was sharing behind the scenes that I think would be a powerful conversation. I think one of the things that gets us all in our heads is looking at other people, right? Looking at other people's success or what the perceived success, right, of other people, because it doesn't necessarily mean they're succeeding to just because they're posting pictures of, them on the ocean. I don't know if you guys saw Janelle's, she photoshopped herself into some pictures.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, you're so good. Funny. I've probably done that just in real life, like showing themselves like, I'm in Greece and they're not really there or whatever. And I don't know why I use Greece because I was just there. I really was in Greece.
Now I'm going to be checking the pictures. Right. For the edges.
Looking for the edge, right?
Yes.
But you start looking at other people and making yourself less than because you're looking at other people. And so what I want you guys to share right now, and again, this is open, honest conversation. What could be like the 2-minute I'm a badass version, simplistic version of sharing your success? And then in juxtaposition to that, what's the actual truth that could help someone else understand how you got where you are?
Wow.
I would say, so if I'm understanding your question, is what's something that I may post or put out or share publicly that someone could look at and be like, oh, wow, she's doing the dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know for me, what I love about my lifestyle I've created as an entrepreneur is my ability to do what I want when I want. So a couple weeks ago, I'm obsessed with Silk Sonic and Bruno Mars and Anderson, and they're in Vegas for a residency. I'm like, I got to get there. So just 72 hours, jet set it. I'm sitting next to Lisa Leslie on the plane in first class, living the life, and enjoyed it. And so you could see that and create a big story that's Bridget every week between serving clients and making limitlessness happen is just popping bottles with WNBA stars in first class. Well, first, Lisa didn't say anything to me. She didn't talk to me. I didn't talk to her. So there was that. She was leaning against the window, not concerned about who I was. And secondly, the truth behind that at times that I can get tripped up in if I let my mind go on a journey is if I'm not working on my business, I'm not making any money. And so there's that space where you can see, oh, Bridget's taking fabulous vacations and she's living her life beautifully. And she's by the pool on a Tuesday randomly or at the beach like I was last Monday. And then I may be sitting there, I may have taken the most fabulous picture. But what I do have to work through a lot of times is if I put the phone down and I scroll and I see somebody else doing better, then I then get the choice to either, and you've actually gotten in the community big time. I remember when I first joined, there was a time where there were celebrations and someone was celebrating something and I guess the majority hadn't celebrated. And you said, hold on one second. You better celebrate each other as if it's you happening. And I took that to heart. I'm a natural celebrator of people anyway. I think that's a function of being a coach. But when you said that, it did something to me. And because I do believe in the spirit of oneness and that you are me and I am you and we're not any different. And if you're experiencing something, even if I currently am not to my own reality, I can tune my reality to that experience if I celebrate you as if it's me. Mm-hmm. So backing that up, if I'm doing something fabulous where I can get in my head, is comparing myself to someone else on the timeline. So you may be looking at me comparing yourself to me, but I'm doing it too. And that creates a bit of a separation. And also canceling the lies and limiting beliefs around if I'm not actively working on my business, I'm not making any money. So that that could actually eat away at the enjoyment of the fabulousness that I have created in my lifestyle. So those are, I would say those are the juxtapositions, is that I can absolutely look fabulous, but there's times where I'm like, okay, girl, don't play too much. You better get back to work. And really trying to smooth out the hustle culture that is, because it does get to be easy. And there have been times that I've been away and check my phone and get a notification that I got paid.
Yeah, I love it. That's the fun times.
Yes, it is.
Those are the fun times.
I just caught myself. You were talking about comparison, and I was thinking to myself, I'm playing a game against myself. I don't compare. But where I'm comparing is I keep thinking, I've been at this for how long? And I've been consistently doing all the things. It's about to pop. Like my business is about to pop because Shameca's business did after X number of years and on this kind of trajectory. And Nikki's business did after this amount of time kind of trajectory. And so instead of just bringing it back to managing my own self, that's where my comparison comes in. If I keep doing those things, I know it will happen, but in the timing, I'm playing a comparison game in the timing. And so sometimes getting frustrated with myself if I'm doing all the things and it hasn't happened. But again, go back to facts over feelings. If you look at my numbers and how my year usually goes, this year should be a big pop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. I think for me, I think something that happened recently was I think a week ago, I was every morning I'm on the phone with my mom and my sister, and we talk on three-way as we're taking our girls to school in the morning. And I think one of my nieces just asked randomly, Auntie, what are you grateful for? And it was like this the spirit of gratefulness just like started spewing out of me. And I went on like this 3-minute rant of just all the things I was grateful for. And it was like, once I started, I couldn't stop. And it was all these things of like, you know, I'm grateful that I get to every morning take my daughter to school and get to talk to y'all and, you know, and pick her up from school, and that nobody gets to dictate my time. I'm grateful that I get to wear whatever the heck I want to wear to work every day. I'm grateful that, you know, I bought this car that I'm driving in through my business. I'm grateful that, you know, all of these things just started coming, and it was just, I was in this state of gratitude of what the business that I've created has afforded me. All of these luxuries and mini luxuries, that some of which I prayed for and some of them I didn't even know to pray for, you know? So I think that is, you know, we think about, you were talking earlier about being, you know, having these big goals and big dreams. I've always been one of those people that has dreamed big and had things that I didn't even think I could share with other people because of being judged for them. Like, you know, and I did a post about this a while ago, and it was crazy. It was when we did Giants with you, and you were like, post your ambition. And crazy enough, a friend of ours who's a pastor took my post and did a whole sermon around it about thinking out, like dreaming bigger. But in that post, I was talking about like feeling judged for dreaming big like that. And so for me, that's what I'm proud of, is having those big dreams and actually starting to see them come to reality. But the juxtaposition of it for me is the comparison, I think, is sometimes I do start to compare myself with, we were talking about, you know, this Play Big is a container where there's people doing some really big ish,
Yeah.
you know, and it gets really, every time I think I've gotten better at not comparing my results to others, and I can go like the whole container of being like, I'm not comparing myself. And then we'll get right up to the end, and like the big awards at the end where people like really have blown it out of the water at the end. And I'm like, God dang it. I'm like, man, I wanted to do this, you know, like this time I really wanted to cross 6 figures inside of the container. And it happened right after, you know, we finished. And so I was really happy for the people who did, but I was like, man, that was supposed to be me, you know.
It's you in July.
Here's the thing that I love the most about everything you guys are saying, because this is what trips people up. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation today, is that you're talking about all these thoughts. And I can see people saying, true, that's me. Okay, I'm human, all these things in the comments. And the reality of it is you still have created mind-blowing results for yourselves because you continue to show up and you continue to take radical responsibility for who you be in those moments that you're going through those things. Like I can hear you all talking yourself through this process of that's not real, right? It's not the truth. It is a truth. It is something that I'm experiencing, but the reality of it is either I'm going to get there, and it's not this like, oh, I'm going to get there, so I'm going to keep doing the same thing. It's the real willingness to look at the work. And that's one of the things I love about the work we do inside of Play Big. The container is meant to create these awarenesses, like Nikki, what you just talked about, right? You just talked about seeing other people succeeding and it making you feel some kind of way. It's meant to show you how you show up, because it's how you show up in life. And in the outside world, what decisions you're making, what fears get shown to you, that's going to dictate the results that you create in your business. And most people are incapable of looking at themselves without a veil or a mask on. They're either looking through the silver lining and not the reality of what they're doing, or they're looking at themselves in comparison to other people so much so that they pretend like they're further along than they are and they can't do the work necessary in the moment. I want to talk about Play Big, but Bridget, you mentioned something when we were behind the scenes that I want to talk about that I think is important, because I think people choose programs, containers, and mentors for all the wrong freaking reasons, or they choose them for the right reasons, and then they attach meaning to it, and then it ends up sabotaging them. And so I want you to share I had a whole thing that I was going to talk about in regards to this, like how to choose and why to choose and what to do when you're in. But I want you to share the story that you shared with us, because I think it's super important. And I think far too many people experience this, but they don't kind of shine a light on it. They just move on.
It's really, to me, it's expectations that we have. And a lot of times we're not aware of the expectations. And I wasn't initially. That when I went to Game On Live and it just was so right. Like just you, your programs, everything about you, what you represent, your story. It was yes, absolute hell yes to join. And one of the largest investments I've made in a mastermind program, like at one time. I've done it over a series of events and things, but just at one time. And there was a level of excitement with investing that much and on that level that I got in, and then I expected immediate returns on that investment.
Wait, let's talk about the immediate return, because earlier you actually put a number on it. So what did you expect?
I wanted millions. I was like, okay, listen, the whole like birds of a feather flock together. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to flock. So if I'm going to flock, and like the whole, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Cool. Me and Shameca about to be besties. Millions are about to just pop in. And so there was this gap between the investment, boom, it's a no-brainer. And I had to meet myself in the expectation. Mm-hmm. I had to meet myself in the hold on. This is a process. So I feel like I came out the gate with these big expectations of immediately aligning and getting the results that you spoke about. And not like you said, I promise you, as soon as you invest this money with me, you're going to get it in a month. But that was part of my fidgeting I needed to work out. And I felt like the first 90 days and doing Play Big on top of being in the NLA container helped me to work through that fidgeting and slow down enough to understand that what got me to the place of even being able to invest in you will not get me to the millions. I couldn't play the same way. So I had to slow down, check my expectations of you and of the program and of my spend at the door, and actually settle in for the ride and understand how to calibrate and recalibrate and play the game and release some things. And I will say, just that Play Big space, the elements that got deposited into me, into my mindset. Again, there was the pop that Randi speaks of, it just having maybe what it was, where I were hearing and understanding. And I talk about this a lot to you in the containers, that intellectually, I get a lot of things. The gap of intellectualizing and embodymizing, and I'm making up a word.
You are.
That's uncomfortable. The journey to embodymizing, you got to check yourself. You got to check yourself, your ego, your doubts, the way you played before, all of it. Like Play Big is the exact right name. Because I realized I was playing small, and I just paid my admittance into the ballpark.
Yeah, I love it.
And expected to have a championship.
To get on the field.
We win it!
Yes. You got your success.
Let down.
Yeah.
And understand the fundamentals of the game. And that's what I had initially. It was, all right, I'm going to spend this money. It's going to be magical manifestations. So
yeah. And in the spirit of choosing, the coach for the right reason and expecting that success, once you get into that container, that Play Big container, and the pressure, it starts to get pressurized, right? with all of the expectations that we place on ourselves, the energy of the successful people in the group, you can freak out. You can freak out, you can shut down, you can start this war with the monkey mind. But what I love about Play Big and NLA is there's tools to get me out of my head and into practical application. I'm actually learning sales skills. I've got real challenges. There's so much I can do to build my business. But every month we focus on one thing. Every month we focus on building one piece of the business development muscle, which when I'm stuck in my head, I go to the practical teaching within sales school that is a part of NLA that is a part of Play Big, because I think you give some of the sales school rapid start modules as part of the Play Big program. And so that is a type of support that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
Once you're stuck in your head, to break out and actually go through some steps, because let's face it, mindset is huge, but you actually have to do the work. You actually have to make offers. You actually have to have a program to sell, or be clear on what you're actually out there selling. You can sit there and own yourself all day long, but you actually have to get out and walk the talk. And so I love that Play Big gives you both the mindset and the practical walking the walk.
One of the things I think is funny is like there's a complete opposite person to what you just said. Like the person who's like, okay, I've got all the mindset down and I'm looking for you got to get the practical in. But there's a complete opposite person now with all these online courses and things. People have gotten so addicted to learning that there's an opposite person that shows up in my world lately they're like, I just need a workbook and I'm going to do all the workbook stuff, but there's no practical application of the workbook stuff in the real world, because that's the terror barrier, right? That's the barrier, the courage that you have to actually get out there and do it, as opposed to just, take a weekly course and learn and, follow the steps and post it on your page. That's easy. What's hard is looking at you and saying, who am I being inside of this action? Nikki was talking about managing your energy. Am I posting this from a state of oh, I need a client today? Or am I posting this from a place of certainty that I am the person for the job for this specific person who's for me? This is the work that most people sometimes don't even realize they need to do in order to get to the millions, right? It's akin to what Bridget said. I paid this person this money. I should be a millionaire. I was expected to have a $100,000 month by I paid it in November. February. I'm expected to have $100,000 a month by January, and the money's not coming. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Most of the people who have come through Play Big, at least with me, I went, how many times have I done it now? I don't know, 3, 4. I don't know. I forgot. But every time, most of the people who have gone through it, know the at least the basics of the things that you should be doing, right? So we've taken the courses, we've downloaded the freebies, we've learned the things. So it's not that we don't know what to do. It's the being held accountable to doing it. When we're doing the check-ins every week, and there is no well, I didn't do this because no, you did it or you didn't.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's and that to me, I remember the first time going through it and really having to sit with that, oh, okay. And realizing okay, where else am I doing that? And I remember having a conversation with my husband about it, and he was like, yeah, you do that all the time. You have a whole story behind a lot of stuff. And I was like, really? I do that? And he's like, dude, we've been together 17, 18 years. Yeah. Yeah, you do. I was like, oh, I need to work on that. So it was when you talk about holding a mirror up to yourself and seeing who you're being, I think there's so many things I have learned about myself through going through this program over and over again that have helped me to show up as a better leader, a better businesswoman, leader to my own clients. And even I think he would probably even say a better wife, because I catch myself doing those things even in my personal life. I'm like, oh, okay, yep. Yeah, either it is or it isn't. Facts over feelings, right? I hear the Shameca bobblehead. I thought we talked about getting you one of these.
Working on it still.
Like I hear the Shameca
The
bubble
prototype
on my
did not
shoulder.
turn out how I wanted it to, so we need to do.
I want to make sure it has hair that I could touch, though. I want it to have the tactile hair. I don't want don't make it hard plastic. I want it to be able to like rub
will
it for
be
good
blue
luck.
or purple? That is the question.
It's going to be a mixture. It's going to be like blue, purple.
You can pop it out.
You can have the interchangeable.
You guys are doing too much now.
That's great. That's great.
You should do a poll. Ask the
Do
people.
a poll, blue or purple?
Blue or purple.
I think more people are like focused on purple because that's the longevity of purple as opposed to blue, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But you're evolving. It might be.
I am evolving.
Exactly.
I may shave my head. We don't know what's coming next. No, that's not
toes.
I have a question for you guys, and I want to, because we've been talking about Play Big a lot. And the question I have is, if you could give some sage advice to someone, even if, okay, they're thinking about joining Play Big, they're thinking about having me as a mentor, they're thinking about making that investment. And somebody said it earlier, like investing with me it's not a small sum. And there's varying reasons why people want to do it. The main reason is you would know that this is your space and I'm your mentor. Like the high achievers is who I work with. I got you. I understand you. And I don't just mean high achievers like people who want to achieve high. I'm talking about people who can't help themselves. I have a type, right? I have a type, and that type knows when they hear me speak, there's a resonance to what I say that calls them in. What kind of sage advice would you give them about even considering, like, are they even ready to play at this level? What things to consider for themselves? Anything like that. What would you share?
I would say... Okay.
Come on.
Go ahead, Randi.
Okay. So I would say that you have to be ready to face your patterns, your behaviors that have prevented you from getting to the next level on your own. I know that was one of the big draws for me, is I think I've told you this before, but you said in one of your marketing posts, I will trigger you. And I thought, sign me up. Anything that triggers me, brings me to that next level of growth. And I was looking to grow beyond where I had already gotten on my own. I am a coach. I've been in this self-development game for a long time, like reading Tony Robbins when I was 11. And he was just getting started. This is like a part of me. And so any time where I can really break into a new level of awareness and a new level of performance is something that really excites me. And so if you've done programs in the past and you can't really break through the ceiling, I think this is the program for you, because you can't help but be called out on your story in that space. Either you recognizing it from just being a part of high energy and the container, and so you correct yourself, or we'll call you out. Shameca will call you out.
Snap your story.
And I love it. It's loving and firm.
It's funny you said getting triggered. That was actually the word that came to me as well, because I remember Shameca Land. That was the word that kept coming to me. Like I kept seeing and I'm a messaging girl. So that was the thing that I kept seeing. And I was like, oh, she's going to trigger me. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like at the point where I felt ready to be triggered. Like I felt like I needed to be triggered because I was kind of stagnant. But I knew that I had to be ready to receive it and not get defensive about it. And I knew that I had a tendency to sometimes get defensive and not be open to receive it. So I think that is the thing. Like you have to be at the point where they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Like be ready to change your pattern. So allow her to do her thing, because it's different than a lot of other coaches. So allow her to help you do the work in her way, because it's going to be different than a lot of other coaches.
Yeah, I would say if you're questioning if you should, you're not ready. That's the immediate thing, because the way in which Shameca works and calls up you as giants, it's a knowing. There's not a hesitation. So if you're hesitating, you're not ready. So I stop there. And if you are feeling a pull, knowing, I feel like you're a giant who's probably been playing smaller by someone else's rules. And there's a part of you that knows that ain't going to cut it for you. It's not going to cut it for your life, your legacy. And when you're really exhausted of being the smartest person in the room, because I feel like who you attract is that, or maybe I'll just talk about myself, the know-it-all who feels amazing because you're a natural leader that a lot of people look to you for guidance.
Yeah.
And you've really enjoyed being in that spot. But if you're really being real with yourself, you probably haven't had many, if at all, rooms and spaces in which you're not the big cheese. And there's an ego resting and chill that has to come with that, because to the point of Nikki and Randi, you can only go so far being that person, the smartest and biggest in the room. So I invite you to come into a room full of the biggest of the big, to be able to feel small and big at the same time, which one of my NLA power players said, and it's so true, allow yourself to fall completely apart and be held such that when you do return to the space of your bigness and your leadership, it's elevated, you're elevated, and the impact that you make, that you have the capacity to make, has been completely obliterated and expanded beyond your wildest dreams. And that's that's the ability and the possibility that for us that are created the way in which we're created, that Shameca, you're uniquely and incredibly designed to serve.
That was so beautiful. I'm like, keep talking, Bridget.
Bottom line, you'll know, and you're probably tired of being big in small people's worlds. So
yeah, that was really beautiful. That's like the perfect explanation. But I love that you said, let me just talk about myself, because it's easy from that space to just share, like, this is who we are. This is who I am. And this is who gets served in this container. It's cute for me when people show up in my world and there's something about me that they like. They just think they see the success of other clients and they're like, oh, well, she's helping these people. She can help me. And I'm like, I'm not for everybody. Like, I will trigger you, but I understand who I'm for and who I'm meant to serve. And you just did a perfect description of who they are. I serve the leaders of leaders, not the wannabe leaders of leaders. You guys have been leading people since before you could talk. You're probably leading your parents around. You are leaders, right? And somehow along the way, it got a little twisted. Like, you're trying to let me just do what everybody else is doing. Let me fit how everyone else is fitting. Let me not try to lead as much. Let me not try to be that giant. Let me get a little bit smaller so that I can call in more people. And the reality of it is you're meant to be a supernova. You are meant to let every ounce of the power that is inside of you explode out so that you can be who you're meant to be in the world. And what you need is both a space. I don't want to call it a container because I don't want to contain you. You need a space, a safe space, and a person, a guide who is able to hold all of that. And so when you can think about what Power Player Nation is, what my world is, when you said you want to come in the world where the bigs of the bigs are hanging out, it's a hell of a lot of supernovas, a lot of energy in one space, and we're all holding each other. And that's what makes it work, because we all have the capacity to do it. Someone steps in that container without that capacity, you're not going to last. And so, like Bridget said, if you're wavering, like, oh, should I? Is this the person? I always tell people when they come to me, they're like, I'm interviewing other coaches, then I'm not yours. We don't have a divine assignment. Go interview, do your thing, and maybe you'll come back and maybe you won't. I'm really serious about that. And so just one last invitation into Play Big. I'm taking 30 powerful, brilliant, badass supernovas through this process to expand themselves into their next level of leadership and money in their business. And here's the deal. The money isn't the best part of this game. The person, the leader, the giant that emerges, that's the golden ticket, right? This isn't a how-to program. It is a container that holds you in the highest level of frequency of your own power. Because you don't need somebody to tell you what to do. Like Nikki said, you already know what to do. You've taken the classes. You're teaching the stuff. You don't need that. You know that. But what you need is a mirror that can reflect back to you the greatness that's within you that you already know that you have. What you need is a space, a portal where you can have this being held that ensures that you don't keep turning off, on and off, or turning up and down, or falling in and out of the power that you know that you possess, right? Because the truth is, we don't struggle when we're in our highest level of power. We struggle when we're outside of it, when we're walking beside it, when we're like, not in it. And Play Big is the space where you tap into that next level version of you that you already know is there. But for some reason, you haven't yet been able to stay on top of that identity, right? Inside of Play Big, we are only holding and seeing that version of you, no matter what's happening in your life. So 30 people are going to go through this program. We only have 8 spots available. And my question to you, is one of them yours? If one of them is yours, the way that you do this and the only way that you can get an application is through me. You can't just throw money at me, click a link and buy. I'm serious about the containers that I hold and who I allow in, the spaces that I mentor, because I pour a lot of myself into it. And again, we want to make sure there's an energetic match there. The only way you can get in is by messaging me. So just message me, Shameca, I'm ready to play big. And then we'll begin the process of screening and qualifying the application process to see if you're ready to play with us, right? You may be ready to play big. It just may not be here. And that's okay too. And so we'll have a conversation. And if you're ready, we'll move you through. Let me just lay this on the line. The investment is $10,500, which is a drop in the bucket to the transformation that is provided inside of this container. $10,500 is your energetic commitment to the transformation you say that you seek and to playing a much bigger game. Today, May 31st, because this is going to get recorded and sent out, is the last day to have, for those of you who need cash flow options. It's the extended payment plan. So instead of doing a 3-pay, you can do a 6-pay. Today's the last day to do that. The reason why I said cash flow options, some of y'all take payment plans because you ain't got the money. That's not why you should take a payment plan, right? You take payment plans because you want cash flow instead of dropping the cash that you have, so that you can continue to bring the money in that you're bringing into your business and not have to deplete what you have available. I know for me, cash flow options have always been powerful because for lots of time, I created a baseline of the amount of cash I want to hold in my bank account at all times so I don't feel broke, because I grew up broke. So I don't want that broke energy coming into my life. So I have a baseline, I have a warrior line. Let me teach y'all how to invest. Not today, but maybe I'll do a live stream about how to invest in programs. So payment plans are for cash flow options. It's not because you're hoping that you're going to make the one payment and then all the money's going to come back. Let me just tell you right now, it's very difficult to create from a space of lack. Don't put yourself in that position. So you can either be all in. There's some bonuses that are available. We start July 29th. If you start this month as well, there's additional bonuses, time with me, private coaching that's available to you until we start. Message me, Shameca, I'm ready to play big. That's how you get in. Ladies, I appreciate you and thank you so much for sharing yourself and what's going on with you. I want to give you guys like a quick 60 seconds each to just wrap up and share one last thing that you feel like is important to leave on a note that you want to, like, if this was all you had to say, like, what would you say to someone as you leave?
I would just say that the biggest thing that I'm learning this year is to trust yourself. Trusting yourself once once you make a decision that this is something that you're going to do, regardless of what it is, if it's setting that you've set a goal for yourself for the year, whether if you know that Shameca is your person to help you get to the next level, whatever that thing is, then trust that that is it and just move.
If I had one thing to share, it would be that investing in yourself is always a good investment. Be open to receiving the message, no matter where you place your time and energy and resources, because there's something to be learned in every single space. And I think that for those that are listening, your people, Shameca, that's what we do. We continue to learn and take in information but get yourself into a place where you're implementing it and embottomizing it. That's where
have you embottomized?
really happens. Yeah.
I would say to be committed to being committed, and that you are always one decision away from an entirely different experience than you're having, and that life was meant to be expansive, to continually grow and up level. And the fact that Shameca's genius of gamifying it makes it even more fun because it's supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. It's not supposed to be that serious. And if you stay committed to being committed, then the fruits that you see others have will be yours in abundance. And it's just a matter of being committed to being committed. A lot of people struggle with that. And it's easier to be committed when you have invested in a space of other people who've chosen to be committed as well, because you're going to want to falter and hide and shrink and quit. And you're more likely to do that when you're solo dolo. But when you do have an intentional community around you, it becomes nearly impossible unless you choose to step back from it. So that's what I would say.
Love it. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate you in more ways than you can imagine. You just opened up your own world. You told your own inside scoop, the stuff you probably weren't going to tell nobody but God. You just shared publicly here for the betterment of somebody else. And that speaks a lot to your character and who you are. And I appreciate you so, so much. I am grateful that you allow me to be a part of your journey and your story, to guide you, to mentor you, and to do life with you. And again, I'm just eternally grateful. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. For those of you who will be joining us in Play Big, we will see you in the game. For those of you guys who are on the fence and thinking about it, just when you have a knowing, you'll know it's not time, right? It's a not yet, or maybe it's a never for you. I don't know. I just want to encourage you to walk the courageous walk, because it's courage that's going to get you from where you are to where you want to be. It's not really the correct mentor, the correct program, the correct strategy. The thing that I'm genius at doing is pulling that courage out of you. That is what I'm gifted at doing. All right, loves. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching my show, my channel. Here's what I want you to do. If you really love what you've been listening to, I want you to subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. No, really, leave a comment. Like right now. I'm not going to stop talking until you leave a comment. Seriously, leave a comment.